There's a moment in food history when something ordinary became extraordinary, a food so simple, yet so culturally significant, that almost every American, at some point, has held it in their hand, dribbled mustard on it, and felt that connection to something larger than a snack. That food is the hot dog. You see it at ballparks, fairs, backyard barbecues, even in art and literature as an icon of Americana. But the real story, the true origins of the hot dog, is far more layered, far richer, and far more human than the cartoons, cliches, and viral urban legends that dominate popular culture. This is a story that stretches across continents, centuries, and cultures. It's about immigration, language, industry, survival, humor, and the evolution of street food into national identity. And, importantly, it's all grounded in fact, not folklore. To understand the hot dog, we first have to understand the human drive to preserve and prepare meat in a way that lasts. Processed meats, that is, meats altered from their raw state through grinding, curing, or smoking, are among the earliest forms of human culinary ingenuity. Ancient Romans stuffed spiced meat into intestines, and similar techniques existed in medieval Europe. The principle was simple. Meat could spoil quickly, especially before refrigeration, but if you ground it, mixed in salt and spices, stuffed it into a casing, and smoked or boiled it, it could last much longer. This was survival food that also happened to taste pretty damn good. By the time Europe entered the 13th and 14th centuries, sausages were common street food across the continent. In Frankfurt, they had the frankfurter Würstchen, a slender, flavorful pork sausage. Across the border in Vienna, Austria, the wiener was a mixed pork and beef sausage that became a staple in taverns and markets. And somewhere along the way, people started joking that the sausages resembled dachshund dogs, long, slender, and slightly comical. Linguists note that this kind of visual metaphor for food, combined with colloquial humor, was already in use in Germany by the 19th century. The sausage was not made from dogs. The name was just a visual pun. When waves of German immigrants arrived in the United States in the mid-1800s, they brought with them these sausage traditions. Cities like New York, Chicago, and St. Louis became the epicenters of German culinary influence. The sausages arrived first in butcher shops, taverns, and German beer gardens, and eventually found their way to street corners and food carts. By the 1860s, Manhattan streets were dotted with vendors selling sausages tucked into slices of bread, an easy, portable meal for workers, students, and travelers who didn't have time to sit down for a proper lunch. These were inexpensive, practical, and delicious, hitting the sweet spot for urban Americans adjusting to industrial life. It was in this environment that the hot dog began to take shape as a distinctly American food. By the 1880s, college humor magazines and local newspapers in the Northeast were already referencing dog wagons and hot dogs, slang terms for sausages served in buns. One printed reference from 1884 mentions the term hot dog, not in a cartoon, not as a marketing gimmick, but in passing as a recognizable colloquial term. Linguists studying the evolution of American English see this as a natural blending of German immigrant language and local slang. This is the first point where you can see the hot dog moving from immigrant food into the American mainstream. One of the earliest documented commercial successes came in 1871 at Coney Island, when a German immigrant named Charles Feltman set up a food stand selling sausages and rolls. Feltman understood the magic of mobility. The sausages could be eaten while walking, sitting on the boardwalk, or watching the waves crash. Records indicate that he sold over 3,600 of these sausages and buns in his first year, a number that today would still be impressive for a single street vendor. Feltman didn't just sell food, he created a cultural habit. People began associating the act of eating a sausage and a roll with leisure, summer, and fun. By the 1890s, hot dogs had become standard fare at baseball parks. Vendors wandered the aisles, hot dogs wrapped in waxed paper, calling out to fans. Stadiums became a perfect incubator for hot dog culture. Large crowds, limited seating, and an appetite for something portable, cheap, and tasty. Baseball and hot dogs were intertwined almost instantly. People often think that Nathan's Famous, which opened in 1916, invented the hot dog. That's not true. Nathan Handwerker's genius was marketing and scaling. He turned a popular street food into a cultural institution. Nathan's stand on Coney Island leveraged pricing, quality control, and branding to cement the hot dog's place in American consciousness. The linguistics behind the term hot dog is equally fascinating. Popular legend credits cartoonist T.A. Tad Dorgan withdrawing a dachshund in a bun at a New York Giants game around 1901, coining the phrase hot dog because he supposedly couldn't spell dachshund. But serious historical research has not uncovered any surviving cartoon from that event. What is clear is that the term hot dog was already circulating in print, college slang, and newspaper articles. Historians consider the cartoon story a convenient narrative myth that illustrates the humor and culture surrounding hot dogs, but doesn't reflect the actual documented origin of the phrase. But hot dogs are not just about history and linguistics. They also tell us something about society, economics, and technology. The rise of the hot dog coincided with industrialization and urbanization in the U.S., large immigrant populations, factory labor, and the rise of mass entertainment created the perfect environment for portable, cheap food. Street vendors were small businesses, operating on thin margins, yet they innovated in ways that shaped the food industry. The hot dog is a product of mobility, of people, ingredients, ideas, and language. It is survival food, leisure food, and cultural artifact all at once. Production methods of hot dogs also reflect advances in food technology. Early sausages were hand-stuffed, cooked over open flames, and sold immediately. By the early 20th century, manufacturers began using mechanized grinders, emulsifiers, preservatives like nitrates and nitrites, and synthetic casings to increase shelf life and uniformity. Modern hot dogs are highly engineered foods designed to last longer, cook evenly, and appeal to taste expectations while remaining inexpensive. This brings us to the nutritional conversation, which is unavoidable. Hot dogs provide protein, sure, but they are also high in saturated fat, sodium, and sometimes sugars. They are classified by the World Health Organization as processed meats, a category linked with increased risk of colorectal cancer. Studies show even small amounts of daily consumption can raise risk, particularly when eaten frequently. While most Americans enjoy hot dogs in moderation without obvious immediate harm, the science is clear that they are not health foods. The risks are associated with cumulative, habitual intake over decades. Cooking method really matters. Grilling at high heat can form compounds that carry additional health concerns. And even though packaged hot dogs are pre-cooked and safe when heated properly, outbreaks have happened when production and storage hygiene fail. In the U.S., regulatory oversight ensures commercially produced hot dogs meet strict safety standards. But the risks of processed meat consumption are still there and scientifically documented. Culturally, hot dogs have gone way beyond their immigrant origins. They've become an emblem of Americana. The 4th of July, baseball games, roadside diners, summer fairs. Competitive eating contests like Nathan's famous highlight how this food has been mythologized, turning a simple street snack into a spectacle. But beyond that, the hot dog reflects deeper truths about society. It embodies the immigrant experience, urbanization, labor, and innovation. It shows how something humble can become a symbol, how food carries stories, and how eating a single sausage in a bun connects us to centuries of culinary evolution. Linguistically, socially, and economically, the hot dog is a prism through which we can see human adaptation. It's a lens on global food migration, the melding of cultures, and the evolution of public taste. Each bite isn't just meat, it's history, sociology, and technology. The buns, the mustard, the ketchup, the toppings, all of these evolved to suit American palates, showing how immigrant traditions are modified over generations. So next time you hold a hot dog, just pause for a second, think about the centuries of sausage-making knowledge that came before it. Think about the waves of German immigrants who introduced this to American streets. Think about Coney Island and baseball parks, push carts, summer crowds, and the linguistic journey that turned a dachshund sausage into a hot dog. This is food, history at its richest, layered, complex, and human. And it's a story that speaks to migration, adaptation, commerce, and identity all in a humble handheld snack. Here's my call to you. If you're watching this, if you're even halfway intrigued, hit that like button, drop a comment about the wildest food history fact you've learned recently, and subscribe if you want more of these deep dives. Because real history, the stuff that actually happened, is what changes how you look at the world and the food you eat every day. And trust me, we've only just scratched the surface. Hot dogs are more than a snack. They're a lesson in history, culture, and innovation. They remind us that even the simplest foods carry stories that span centuries and continents. If you want to understand food, culture, and society, look at what people eat, how they eat it, and why it matters. Hit subscribe, stay curious, And I promise we'll uncover more of these stories together, stories that will make you think, laugh, and maybe never look at your lunch the same way again. Peace out, stay curious, and I'll catch you on the next deep dive into the foods that shaped history.